podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Gingham kit, I think they're calling it in the communications department. Apparently it's a nod towards the industrial cotton mill past of Manchester, and that's why they've come up with this monstrosity which we talked about a few weeks ago.
It's also a nod to the manager's heritage, presumably, because you can call it gingham all you want, but it looks pretty tartan to me.
Yeah, this was going around about 18 months ago, and there's such a reaction against it. I think Nike must have pulled it, but somehow this has got past the powers that be. I think it's a horrible piece of kit. Not so much gingham, although my daughter wears gingham dresses to her school, so maybe we'll all look like a bunch of 7-year-olds, but more tea cloth or tablecloth, I think, don't you?
It's got a very tablecloth vibe. It might not be that bad. We've only seen pictures.
It's bad.
I like the black and blue hoops, so I'm weird. I'm in the minority. I think of all the problems at United, the fact that we're going to be a laughing stock because of our patchwork tops is really the least of our problems.
Yes.
It might be all right. It might be fine. In person, it might look good. It might look good on the telly. It's not going to, but...
I mean, it might be a criminal kit, but no one's going to prison for it. Unlike the Bébé transfer, the Portuguese police now want to talk to Manchester United about their thoughts on the matter. Interesting. Again, this one is an ever-evolving story. We've known for quite a long time that this is a deeply, deeply corrupt transfer, and now the Portuguese police are digging into it, and someone somewhere is going to pay, and I wonder whether United will get themselves out of it by simply saying, oh, well, we paid the money, nothing to do with us where it went after that, which is a lame excuse when I'm quite sure they knew exactly where the cash was going.
Well, I mean, what's the allegation then? What's the speculation?
So it's a tax right. issue. So Portuguese police are concerned about exactly where the money went and who's paid tax on it. I mean, as it happened, Mendes took about 40% of the €9 million transfer fee through his Gestafute agency, and Vitória Guimarães took 60%. Mendes' 40% is 30% because he owned 30% of the economic rights to Bébé and 10% as an agent fee, but he only became Bébé's agent 2 days before the transfer went through, and the legitimate agent was sacked by letter, which I'm sure Bébé did not pen himself. And in any case, the fact that it stinks is one thing. The fact that someone might not have paid tax on it is quite a different thing. And United's part in it is they're extremely complicit, although it may not be illegal, of course, because I'm quite sure they knew exactly where the money was going. And it's still an extremely bizarre transfer, which we've never had any proper answers about. And the one about Carlos Queiroz, having recommended him, Carlos Queiroz being a Mendes client, Bébé being a Mendes client, and the story that appeared in the newspaper saying that Real Madrid were after him and Jose Mourinho is interested, Mourinho being a Mendes client as well. And of course Bébé's gone to Besiktas this season, where there are 6 Mendes clients on the books. Now, if that's not enough to tell you that this deal stinks, then we can talk about all the flows of money for a player who could have been bought for £100,000 just 8 months before, or nothing 6 weeks before, suddenly went for €9 million. And that's only the bit we were told about, because there's another million or so pounds that just disappeared, came off United's books and has never been accounted for.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? That's what you call value in the market right there. That story is worth it. Fergie's just trying to find a way to pen some spy novel for his retirement about corporate espionage.
Yeah, the cynics amongst the listeners might be thinking that Fergie would have taken a backhander on this deal as well. But, we couldn't possibly comment on that one, could we? I mean, it's not like Fergie has ever had a safe in which he sticks large brown envelopes full of cash and discovers it by accident, saying, it wasn't mine, Gov, I was just keeping it for safekeeping.
Yeah, he's just looking after that money.
Anyway, there was some football this week. It was rather disappointing because...
not really, because it was inevitably going to happen.
Well, it was, yes, and we talked about not getting the hopes up. So there were hopes for a good few minutes that Newcastle might give City a game before City took took over and eventually scored. And there was a huge amount of inevitability about City winning that game as soon as they'd scored, of course. And Mancini once again pulled off some good tactical moves to get City the win. Of course, that was the real game that counted at the weekend, and United versus Swansea was really an aftershow.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, United, let's detach it from the context for a second and say that actually United were very comfortable. It was unfortunate that the second half was, I mean, we've had this problem all season. It's come and gone, but our second half performances have not been that great all season long, with a few exceptions. But this was that classic kind of the job got done in the first half, took all the feet off the pedals, and with a couple of notable exceptions, Michael Carrick in particular, no urgency to try and track down the City's goal difference, just a belief that, we've got the 3 points and basically the league title's gone, but let's just get the 3 points so we've got at least got a shot on the last day of the season. But, in the first half there was some really bright, nice football played. Wonderful goal from Paul Scholes. What a sight to behold that goal was.
Yeah, he didn't celebrate it. Yeah, not because he has any affinity with Swansea, I assume, and more because he's a realist and thought the title already gone, which of course it has.
A high five with Michael Carrick to celebrate. That was the extent of it. When Carrick offered a high five of congratulations, Scholes didn't diss him. He took it.
Yeah, I guess there was some disappointment in United not going for a big win. It really did seem to fall flat in the second half, and a lot of passing around the edge of the box and really not enough penetration, which has sometimes been a problem this season. Not a huge amount. I mean, they've actually scored quite a lot of goals this season and racked up a really decent amount of points. I mean, assuming we win against Sunderland, there's a big assumption, we'll end on 89, and that would have won us the league title on many, many occasions over the last 20 years. So in terms of points won, it's been a good season, but it's going to be a season that ends with no trophies.
Well, probably. I mean, we'll come on to it, but it's not beyond the realms of human experience that we're going to win the league. It just seems very unlikely at this point. The second goal was a cracker as well.
That's right, Ashley Young, who side-footed at home, very nice finish, and probably the best part of Ashley Young's performances this season, I think, his finishing. The rest of it, I can't say I'm wholly convinced that
really
he was the right man for United. I mean, look, he's a decent player, but I don't think he's performing at the very highest level. But then again, we're not at the very highest level anymore, are we?
Yeah, and you don't need everyone in your squad to be able to perform at the very highest level to even be a team at the very highest level. I mean, Ashley Young has been incredibly effective, given it's his first season in such a high-profile club.
Do you think he's not going to get any better? He's 27, so I think this is the pinnacle for Ashley Young.
No, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think another season at United, and he'll learn all the time, I would imagine, playing at United. And I think his output this season has been excellent, goals and assists, and he's offered attacking threat. He had a very patchy period when he had an ankle injury, and he has always been a sporadic performer, but I think it's a bit harsh on Young's overall performances. I think he's added some dynamism down that left flank particularly.
I think we could have spent £18 million on a central midfielder, but
no, absolutely. And
next week we'll do our wrap-up of the season and our player scores and all that kind of stuff, so perhaps we should leave some of that to next week. But a fine goal.
Absolutely not Ashley Young's fault we didn't buy a central midfielder either. I mean, that money got spent on him, not up to him really, is it? So yeah, a flat atmosphere in the ground, obviously, as to be expected. Some decent support, actually, from United fans, the hardcore in there making themselves heard, and generally that sort of chin-up lads type approach, which is appropriate. Kind of sad to see the ground emptying 5 minutes before time.
And a very curt final speech from Alex Ferguson, who normally goes on a little bit longer, and I think quite a limp lap of honour as well from the players. Interesting in Ferguson's sort of thank you speech, he thanks the fans and the directors. Very nice, yeah, the 6 Glazer lads on the board there. Well, 5 Glazer lads and 1 Glazer lass on the United board. Very important. Couldn't have done it without them.
No, absolutely. At the end, he said something like, all right, all the best. It's like, take care, see ya. All right, okay, bye. Look.
Then he signed off with, let's hope we have the biggest party of our lives next weekend. Yes.
I'd completely given up hope of anything happening this weekend, and then @BeardedGenius tweeted, imagine Liam Gallagher's face if QPR win and we win. And now I have hope again, which I'm a bit cross about because I was quite comfortable in my weary acceptance of City having won the title.
Yes, well, I'm in the mindset that if QPR do win, we'll probably lose as well.
Maybe.
And wouldn't that just sum up the season?
Yeah. I guess it's difficult to analyse the match because it happened in context and you know, we were both very reserved about the possibility of Newcastle getting anything against City, and perhaps unsurprisingly they didn't manage to. And I have to say, actually City have been rather impressive in the way they've handled the last part of the run-in. And Mancini, having looked all at sea when we did escape to 8 points clear, almost seems to have managed to calm himself down, blow off the cobwebs. Getting Mario Balotelli out of the picture altogether seems to have helped the overall calmness, and Yaya Touré's been absolutely exceptional throughout this run-in.
5 games they've put together a really good run, haven't they? They've picked up a load of points, whereas United, 7 points from 5 games? Not enough.
No.
And that has been the difference, and I mean, of course, lots of different things make up a season, so if it does come down to goal difference, we can talk about pieces of bad luck, bad refereeing decisions. I mean, think back to the penalty given against Rio Ferdinand against Newcastle. We can think about the disastrous team selection against City in the derby, points thrown away at home to Blackburn Rovers, and all of that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's all little details, isn't it? But the truth is, came down to the last month of the season, and City didn't crack up. City kept calm under the pressure, and United blew it with some extremely poor performances at times.
Yeah, or certainly appear to have blown it. That's the thing. That's the thing about this episode of the Rantcast, which is slightly strange, which is that there is every chance we're not going to win the league. It seems much more likely that we're not going to win the league than we are, but the possibility still exists, so it's just not in the past tense yet, is it?
In that context, Patrice Evra, United captain, said, if we don't win the league, people will say it's the end of an empire. It's not the end of an empire. There's lots of talent at this club, and that's true, of course, but there are also lots of question marks, and I don't think we need to go as far as say this is the end of the empire. There never has been an end of the empire under Ferguson, but we probably have half a dozen players at least, of which there are question marks over. I mean, certainly some will leave. We'll probably see the end of Berbatov, Owen and Macheda up front. Evra's position's under question as well, because I think he's actually in totality he's had a decent season, but not his best, but not his worst either. Question marks over Vidic and his fitness, Darren Fletcher and his bowels, Anderson's fitness and weight and performances, Park's performances, Giggs and Scholes' age. Of course, Scholes hasn't signed that new contract yet. May well think that even though he's performed so well over much of this second half of the season that he doesn't have it in him to perform more. Interesting that his 2 worst performances have probably come against Everton and City in recently. So lots of question marks that will need to be answered in the summer.
Yeah, and no clear answers as yet as to what those answers are going to be. I'll put out a call for questions, as I do every week. Had a question from Amplified to Rock saying, would it be at all possible for us not to talk about transfers at all on the Rantcast between now and the first Rantcast of 2012-13 season? Sadly, that question would have to be taken in isolation because all the rest of them were about transfers.
758 questions. Yeah, look, I mean, we're not a tabloid show. We're a deep thinking show, aren't we, Paul?
Clearly.
Something like that. But it's that time of season where everyone wants to talk about transfers. And look, the season hasn't finished. There are 4 days left or whatever, 3 days left. And there's much to be won and lost between now and the end of the season, of course. But the club spends months looking at players. They will spend months looking at the balance sheet and trying to work out how much can be spent. I've had some pretty good word on this that is not much. We'll see how true that is, of course, across the course of the summer. But, we seem to know 2 of the players already in Nathaniel Klein and Shinji Kagawa. I mean, it's quite often that United keep a very good cloak over what they're doing, and this may well be smoke and mirrors, but it appears to be. I think I got 2 out of 3 right last season, didn't I? Just the Phil Jones one that was wrong.
And Phil, which was a classic kind of cloak one, because I think I'd literally heard nothing about our interest in Phil Jones up to that point.
Yeah, and Ferguson admitted that they tried to buy him in the January transfer window, and that I thought we'd be bringing in Rafael Varane, who United were interested in, and then he chose to go to Madrid and has been good in a half, in a dozen games or so. He hasn't played actually that much. So look, it looks like those 2, but there are other areas. I mean, if Owen, Berbatov and Macheda go, we need a striker. Definitely needs to be some cover for Patrice Evra. Lots of speculation about Leighton Baines. I think some of the press coverage of that is deeply incorrect, and talking about £5 million transfer fee, not going to happen. 27-year-old, he's got 3 years on his contract, he's had a fine season, he's an England international. Everton might always be trying to balance the books, but they're not so desperate they're having a fire sale. I mean, they're going to, not inconceivable that they finish near a European place, so it doesn't make any sense to me, that one. Why would they? Sold Jolie Lescott for 22 million, so I don't think that'll be cheap, and I'm not sure, given the expected budget, that's likely to happen. There's going to be speculation about lots and lots of midfielders, I'm sure, many of whom won't come in. Let's just hope we get one, hey? I mean, Kagawa's not, I have to say, from what I've seen, he's not really the kind of player who's going to play in a 4-4-2 in England, although a lot of talk, of course, that Ferguson wants to move more permanently to the sort of flexible 4-2-3-1 system where he would play in the hole behind a central striker. But where does that leave Hernandez, Rooney and Welbeck? 1 from 3 there doesn't quite fit.
No, absolutely. And we've had a few questions about formations for next season and all that sort of thing. A question about Eden Hazard from at Tushar MUFC asking whether he's realistic. I think we've said on the podcast that you're definitely of the view that is a financial reality that United are not dealing in terms of transfers.
Interesting piece in the Telegraph earlier this week saying that Manchester City were thinking about pulling out of that deal because they couldn't afford the wages he was asking for.
Wow.
Yeah. Now let's put a few, we can put 2 and 2 together here and come up with, about 150 grand a week and a 35 million euro transfer fee. I just don't think that's going to happen. I have to say I'd be really stunningly shocked, and if it did, it would be completely about turning United's transfer policy.
We had a question from at Dostamt, D-O-S-D-A-M-T, saying 3 realistic targets for summer from each of you gents that would make a huge difference next season. I think realistic and make a huge difference next season might be tricky to balance. Frankly, I think the fact that there's no discussion about central midfielders is staggering, because if we don't win the league this season, it will be because Fergie hasn't done anything about the midfield problem. That's the reason. Look at all the bad performances, all the points dropped. Blackburn at home, Raphael and Park in the central midfield because we had no cover. The 6-1 against City, Phil Jones, not a midfielder, hopelessly at sea against David Silva in the middle of the park. I tried to park the bus against City away, didn't have the central midfielders to pull off that task.
Well, I'll tell you one player that United really could do with, who looks like he's going to Arsenal, is Jan Neville. Young French player who will be very expensive, probably be key player for France in the European Championships this summer. Not realistic at all for United. Look, it's over 5 years now since Ferguson, well, it's coming up on 5 years since Ferguson bought central midfielder. And as you want to count Paul Scholes, who returned to the club in January. So you'd like to think that Ferguson, if he's going to spend big, would spend big there. But I'm not sure that it's going to happen.
And Villa, I think I remember you saying that you weren't sure that he was United level on a past...
Look, I don't watch Ligue 1 loads, so I watch more German, Dutch and Italian football, as well as English, of course, and Spanish. God, I'm surprised I haven't had a divorce yet in that football. I actually managed to watch across all the channels. But French football don't watch loads of. Try and catch a few. I streamed some Lille games just so I could watch Hazard, who scored, by the way. Did you see his outrageous goal the other day where he sort of set up for a colleague's goal against PSG, where he sort of crossed it, kind of flicking his leg behind his standing foot. Don't know quite how to explain that, but
Ronaldo-esque.
Ronaldo-esque, yeah, but from the right hand side, and so the right foot goes behind the left and flicks the ball over, and his colleague scored. Outrageous piece of skill. 2
to 3 football matches a week is generally my limit, so I'm not really very well informed about European football in general. I when someone says this goal's amazing, you've got to check it out, I watch it on YouTube and I enjoy it that way, but I'm not a connoisseur of the world of football, really. I would have said we should definitely sign Zlatan, because that would have guaranteed us the league title this season, but finally he hasn't won it.
Finally, yeah, he's only won the 6 in a row.
I think it's 9 in a row.
Whatever it is. He's also not the top goal scorer. Yeah, he's not the top goal scorer in Italy either, which is an interesting one. The Milan derby was another game I watched this week. Yeah, it was an excellent game. Real ebb and flow to that one, and it meant Juve won the title, their first title since Calciopoli. An interesting position Juve are in, because although they've got this new stadium, and it's not particularly big, it's like 40,000 or so, it's theirs, and so they've been able to commercialise it, so they're believed to be in quite a strong position. So aside from seemingly nabbing Paul Pogba off us, a lot more stories about that one this week, seems like he's definitely signed with them, although until I suppose the word comes from on high that it's happened, we can't confirm that one. But They've also got a couple of, in Marquismo and Vidal, a couple of excellent players who'd probably add to United's stock of midfielders. Not going to happen either, though, is it?
I guess not. Talking of United's stock of midfielders, at Colin RHCP says, should we mould Jones into a dynamic central midfielder if, as expected, we don't invest a huge amount in the squad?
He's not good enough. So his distribution's not good enough and he's not tactically disciplined enough to play the position. I don't think so. I just don't think he's Premier League class in that role.
And I don't think a summer and a season or whatever is going to necessarily make the difference there. I think there will definitely be times where he can do a useful job in midfield. No question about it.
So did John O'Shea.
Well, yeah, and legitimately he did, but he was not the long-term replacement for Roy Keane. And
funny that, I mean, sorry for the digression, but selling O'Shea last summer's beginning to look like a mistake this season, isn't it? I think we could have done with him, not in midfield, but certainly in defence at times when there were so many injuries and at times complete lack of experience.
Well, yeah, but, I said this before the Everton game, the real mistake was selling Phil Neville letting him go however many seasons ago that was, because I'm pretty sure he'd still be playing in the centre of United's midfield now.
Nicky Butt would still do a job in the centre of United's midfield. No.
Everybody thinks Park is going, says Maz_Man United.
Don't think it'll happen. Here's my £1 bet. That's all it's worth. I think Park will still be at the club next season.
He's on the adverts for the Asian tour, of course. We were talking about the impact of signing him financially in the Far East, and you were saying you don't think it has much significance, but I don't know. I think it does make a big difference to the way United are marketed in Asia to have players.
So my point about that was that there's no direct income benefit. South Korean fans are not going out and buying 10 million United shirts, and even if they did, the incremental revenue to United is not very big because we have a fixed income contract with Nike. What it does do is increase the profile in certain countries for United where they can go out and try and get sponsorship deals. So that's the difference. I mean, no one has ever shown me that is specifically tied to any specific commercial contract that United has signed. United has a very large global reach, with or without Park or any of the other players that come from all over the world. And I actually think there's a hint of racism in this. Not you, but general commentary about this. Why do we only talk about this with Asian players?
We don't.
Are United not insanely popular in Serbia right now because we've got Nemanja Vidic, or Wales, or Scotland? Everyone in Scotland's a United fan, right? They're all wearing United shirts because we have the sick boy.
I suspect there are probably quite a few Welsh kids that supported United because of Ryan Giggs. That I'm sure that is a factor. And we talked in pre-season about Chicharito's impact on the fact that Chicharito's like central in all the marketing of United's American tour. It does happen in different regions in the world. In fact, wasn't there something around the time of the signing of Chicharito, something about the club hierarchy encouraging the signing of players from markets we're interested in?
I actually don't doubt it. I just think there's an awful lot of assumption which isn't actually tied to revenue figures in United's P&L. But fair enough. And talking of Chicharito, he's been banned from the Olympics, or as Ferguson says, we came to an agreement with the Mexican FA, and as the Mexican FA says, Ferguson won't allow him to go.
Wait, that's sort of a Glasgow agreement, right? Talking of broad stereotypical racism, just Fergie flew to Mexico to say, listen, we pal. Well, no, I'm not going to carry on down the road of accents, otherwise I'll be doing terrible Speedy Gonzales Mexican man. That's not good for anyone.
Hey, Chicharito! No.
Ed just did a funny accent, everyone. That almost never happens. Hey, Chicharito, why are you not playing the Olympics?
Outrageous, racist.
It's just terrible, isn't it? Why is it allowed if I do Scottish? I don't know. I guess that's not really encouraged either. Yeah, Fergie laying down the law. I think given the impact that the Gold Cup had on Chichi's pre-season this season, and the fact that his season's never quite got going with niggly injuries and all that sort of thing, it's a very sensible decision from the club.
Well, he's got 2 games for Mexico World Cup qualifiers in early June, so he won't be done until mid-June anyway. And if he played in the Olympics, those games kick off in the 3rd week of July and runs through the beginning of August, so he'd miss the start of the season. He'd also have some prep games, so he'd basically be playing all summer into the middle of August if Mexico go any decent distance in the Olympics, and then have to be given 2 months off and then do a pre-season. He wouldn't be ready for United till October. So it is, yes, burnout. It's fair enough. He needs a rest, but it's also Ferguson thinking this is going to disrupt our season hugely, his season hugely next year if he does play in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bridge too far, isn't it? Do you think there'll be any United United players involved in the Olympics? The Silva twins, maybe?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, both of them made the Brazilian squads at various times over the last sort of year or so, haven't they? So I guess it depends. I mean, they take it very seriously in Brazil. The Olympics is considered an important tournament to win, unlike in Britain. I wouldn't have thought we'd see any United players in the GB squad. Stuart Pearce appears to be, picking on merit, although if he picks David Beckham, then maybe not. I guess there's been some talk about Ryan Giggs. I know they want to spread it out, and for years it was, what would be a British team, England plus Ryan Giggs. Maybe not quite the same anymore. I'm sure there'll be a smattering of players from all over the British Isles. But yeah, apart from that, I don't think there'll be that many. I mean, the younger players that we have, Jones and Smalling, could well be going to the European Championships. Certainly Smalling will. Jones touch and go on that one. I think it depends on the balance of the squad. They might take 5 strikers and they'll probably lose a defender as a result, and that could be Jones. And Johnny Evans seems to have this ankle problem, so he might well be out of contention if he needs an operation. Silva brothers we talked about, Chicharito being banned, and the rest of them would have to be over-age players, and I don't think any of the nations are actually qualified, so I think we might be safe on that front.
What about Welbeck? I guess he'll go to the Euros assuming his ankle gets better.
Definitely going to go to the Euros, yeah. I don't think it's a serious injury with Welbeck. I think Hodgson will take 5 strikers because Rooney's out for 2 matches, isn't he? So I think that makes sense, and I think he'll probably lose a right back. He might well think of Smalling as a utility right back. It depends on whether he takes and probably take one of Johnson or Mika Richards.
Is Nathaniel Klein in the England under-21 setup?
Well, he has been, yeah, and of course made the Championship Team of the Year. Very good performance from someone who wasn't in a side that was pushing for promotion.
Yeah, so I guess if we sign him, maybe he'll be in the Olympics picture.
Potentially, yes.
So we've had an important question that I have no answer to from @office_monkey. Who's your favourite member of Girls Aloud? I don't really know exactly who they all are. There was obviously Cheryl Cole. She has very poor decisions about who she marries. But apart from that, there's an Irish one, and that's as far as I know.
Yeah, and there's a strange ginger one as well, yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give Cheryl 1.
Talking of bad jokes, I've had a very important question from @VishKorsh. Vish saying to me, seeing as you're the master of puns, can you create a sentence of football puns that wastes 15 seconds of your podcast? Well, I know you're jonesing for me to do some puns, but these are young man's gigs, and you can't go on forever. As for the title, there's always the silver of hope that will make it. It's only De Gea's breath away. But I'd rather be in City's position, because a Ferdinand is worth 2 in the bush. Evans to Betsy, this has been going on for ages. Scholes, we better carry on with the rest of the show now.
I'm sure that was at least 20 seconds.
Yeah, there you go. No more.
Outrageous. Filling my timeline with dreadful puns as well on Twitter.
Yeah, I couldn't stop last night during the Bilbao-Madrid game. Excellent performance from Falcao in particular, but Atletico Madrid in general, and made Bilbao look really ordinary. And
yes, put our performances against Bilbao into some perspective, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Madrid really did them over. Thoroughly worthy winners, and Falcao, a couple of outstanding goals, and Diego with a third, another very fine goal too, and you kind of saw them kind of getting a bit excited at Eastlands, didn't you, as Falcao turned on a sixpence and put the second in, and writing that cheque. I mean, pay Atletico Madrid blank.
Yeah, I mean, they just signed him at the beginning of this season for 40 million euros, Falcao, as far as I can work out.
Yeah, I mean, he's an established forward and been scoring bags of goals in Portuguese football, and they had a load of money from the Aguero deal.
Interesting. I wonder, he's obviously on a lot of people's radars because exceptional level of talent, but you wonder, I mean, he's just signed for astronomical money. It would obviously cost ridiculously astronomical money. It really is just City that would be in the mix for that transfer, isn't it?
Yes, and I don't think it happened. I mean, I guess a lot depends on who they can ship out. They want to ship out Zeko, and I assume Tevez they still want to ship out, despite Tevez claiming that he now has love for the club and wants to stay forever, and whatever nonsense his PR people are coming out with this week. So I suppose they did want to get rid of those two, and maybe even Balotelli.
Yeah.
If Mancini's finally lost patience, they would look to bring in a couple of strikers. Aguero is certainly not going anywhere, although Madrid would love to bring him in. I don't think City would let him go at all. He's been the shining star in that team this season.
We don't want to talk about that anymore, do we, really? @NoHeroes here asks, how much can we expect to bring in from the sales of Berber, Ando, etc., and will any of it actually be spent on players? Nothing, I would have thought. I don't think Anderson will go in the summer. How are you going to sell him? Who's going to buy him?
Yeah, there wouldn't be that many takers, and it wouldn't be that much, I assume, in the sort of £5 million range. I mean, what was it, 30 million euros, which, depending on how you translate it, at the time was worth about 18 million pounds, and in today's money is worth a lot more than that, but maybe 5 million's a bit hard. But it'd be hard to take over 10 million euros for him, because he's just not performed over 5 years. There's half a dozen games in which he has performed, and most of the time he's injured, so it's a damaged product. Probably means he won't go. I mean, there's been a tendency for United to keep hold of players, and of course Berbatov, I assume they've activated the clause. We haven't actually heard anything about it, but Ferguson said he said this week he won't be going for free, so they'll be looking for a fee for him. Again, that would be in the low millions of euros. I mean, he's 31 and barely played and all of that, but someone will pay some money for him. I mean, I suppose Sunderland did pay £4 million for John O'Shea last summer, and he's about 30, so that gives you some kind of indication of what Berbatov might go for.
Right, there you go. Interesting, and not a lot of money then to reinvest in the squad, that's for sure.
Don't think so. Yeah, don't think so. It'd take a big change of strategy, but I think what we'll probably see is younger players with the sell-on value and about 30 million net spent, something like that. Maybe not even that much.
Important question from @ace_MUFC. What kind of gum do you think that Fergie chews? Interesting.
Spearmint.
Is it? Is this confirmed?
No. he might chew that weird stuff you can get on the continent. You know, it's kind of spicy and a cinnamon flavour or something.
Do you think when they go on holiday to France, he gets loads of different Hollywood gum? Because he gets through a lot of pieces in each game, and the good thing about that Hollywood gum is always how it tastes, but then the taste never lasted very long.
You'd think he's a man who likes a bit of cash. You'd think he'd have the rapper on show so he could get some sponsorship.
You wrote a piece on United Rant this week about the general state of things and the finances and net spend and all that malarkey. There was a really interesting comment about Sir Alex on that. I try not to read the bottom half of the internet in general. Comments tend to make you sad when you read them. Actually, generally not too bad on the podcast, for which I'm very grateful. But there was a really interesting comment that somebody wrote, quite a lengthy thing, about Ferguson and money, and how actually when you get right down to it, there is an analysis of Fergie which really does hold up to quite some level of detail, which is that actually he's just extremely money motivated in general, and has been for a very long time, and thinks very strongly in those sorts of terms. I thought it was an interesting analysis. I'm not saying that I think it's necessarily the case, because I don't really know, but I did think it was interesting to see that.
Well, he's certainly motivated by his own money.
That's what I mean. I mean, in terms of his own personal success.
Exactly. I mean, we can see some evidence for this. He did once threaten to leave the club because he felt he wasn't paid enough. His salary has gone up steeply under the Glazers for his loyalty, so it's now approaching sort of £7 million a year. Some might say, of the cynical variety, that might motivate his loyalty somewhat. He sued the majority owners of Manchester United in 2004 for money, and many people think that's what precipitated the sale of the club. Certainly Coolmore didn't look like they were going to sell their shares until that happened, and then they were telling everyone and his dog that they were after £3 a share. And so yeah, there's been many occasions. Stunning that. I was thinking about this week. I mean, stunning really that he did sue the largest shareholders in the club at the time, and hasn't uttered a single word about the debt that's not aggressive, including telling United fans to F off. So real change, and what's motivated that, I don't know. Is it money? Is it something else? Because he's not a stupid man. He knows exactly what the figures say. It is in black and white exactly how much money United have hemorrhaged over the years, and he said not a single thing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've banged that drum for a long, long time, because let's face it, Fergie has not covered himself in glory in terms of off the pitch stuff during the Glazer years. Admittedly, he has covered himself in glory on the pitch, and in terms of his salary, as you said last week, he adds more value to investment in a football team than any other manager in the world, if you look at the figures.
Yeah. No, I don't begrudge him the salary. It's just interesting it's gone up so much.
What do you think, says MUFC Jeff, of the new members club that at GNev2, as Gary Neville's now known, is proposing?
It's been granted, well, at least the initial report is favourable, so it looks like the planning committee will probably grant planning permission for this one. This one that the club have made a complaint about on the grounds that it will spoil the vista of Old Trafford, which is obviously total nonsense if anyone knows the particular patch of land near Old Trafford where this is planned to be built. It's not going to spoil the vista of Old Trafford at all, not one iota. It was all about control of the local area and the fact that someone else might be creating some merchandising opportunities that United are not in control of. Interesting whether Neville will make any money out out of this. I mean, he said that he'll be using the money he got from his testimonial as the primary source of finance for it. I assume there are other investors involved too. I mean, it's a 139-bedroom hotel as well as a bar and a members club and that kind of thing. So there's quite a lot of capital going into it, and he's promised to pay some costs for local area improvements. It's like £250,000. It's not much, finds that down the back of his sofa, I'm sure. But if there are other investors, they'll be seeking money. So I'm not sure positioning it entirely as a altruistic venture is completely true, but it'll be a nice addition, I think. And Neville won, United 0, I think.
And for all you planning nerds out there, they will all know, of course, that it was a huge mistake of United to try and take on Gary Neville at planning, because this is a man who has gone down in sort of the planning statutes. His defence of his own little Teletubby house built on Greenfield.
Still running, though, that one, isn't it? He's had to promise to take down his windmill.
Now, Gary, this is Bury. Take down your windmill.
So I'm not sure whether that's actually been granted permission, but yeah, he's still trying to build the Teletubby house, just without the windmill.
He made his own defence in that case. He learned all about planning law and stuff. So Gary Neville, there's nothing he can't do.
One of the highlights of the season, of course, Neville's punditry.
We'll definitely come on to that next week. At Don McDowell asking, is this the last rantcast of the season? No, sir. At least one more episode this season. We're going to do an end of season spectacular next week, and then we're going to do stuff during the Euros, right?
We can do, a bit of multilingual Euro-tastic stuff during the Euros.
See,
fortunately, we're not England fans here at Rantcast particularly. We're fans of football, and that's what we'll be celebrating during the great festival that UEFA is putting on for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, keeping an eye on United players and telling our listeners when they ask us Twitter questions that, no, sorry, we can't afford him. No, sorry, no, he's probably not going to come to United because we probably can't afford his wages, because I imagine that's going to happen a lot during the Euros.
So, come on, we've got to talk about the game at the weekend. John O'Shea is going to pick up the ball and he's going to chuck in his own net 12 times, so United win the title, right?
I mean, we're obviously not going to win the title on goal difference, but the fact that their entire back four is made up of Reds, away end visiting hardcore lifelong Reds, it doesn't hurt, does it?
So yeah, could it really be Bardsley, Brown, O'Shea and Richardson at the back?
That would just be...
I think Richardson might actually be injured, but yeah, it would be spectacular if there were a few of them in there.
It would. Just Brown and O'Shea will do me, though. I mean, Bardsley, he's a pretty big Man United fan, Phil Bardsley. But yeah, obviously, they're professional footballers. They're not going to just let us score 12 goals, because I think there might be a little bit of trouble if that happened.
I mean, of course, United do have to win, but there'll definitely be more than half an eye on Eastlands, where City take on QPR. QPR desperately need a point, though. They really do, and it's good that they're not in need of something, although Ferguson, with one tongue firmly in cheek, asked for some help from Sparky. Of course, these two really don't get on. Sparky just does not like anyone seemingly telling him what to do, so there was quite a terse response to that one. As you'd expect, he's not a particularly well-liked man, Mark Hughes, as the manager, but he desperately needs some points, so QPR will be going there to get something, which is good.
I mean, you said Mark Hughes doesn't like anyone telling him what to do. I thought you were going to say Mark Hughes doesn't like anyone, which might also be true. Apart from Roque Santa Cruz, he demonstrably likes him.
Whom he loves. And of course, there's no love lost between him and the City board either. He still feels he was sacked unfairly, and certainly in the way it was done when he was sacked in public before even knowing it.
Yeah, and surely that's going to be all the motivation he needs. On the Football Ramble, they were suggesting that there might be a front three with Cisse, Zamora and Hughes up front. He's just going to pick himself, try and score a 30-yard flying volley for the winner.
Anton Ferdinand will be in there. He said he's been on the phone to his brother, and his brother was begging him to do a job.
There's no chance, everyone. It's just not going to happen. City are going to win like 3-0. QPR are going to go down. City are going to win the league. I wish with all my heart that was not the case, but I just don't see it. The only way it can happen is if it can't happen. There's no way City are going to not win that game. How are they going to... You look at the way, the machine that they've been in the last few weeks. Since Spalletti hasn't been playing, since that Arsenal game, they've just been dominant force.
It could go a couple of ways, couldn't it? It could be that they come out, they score an early goal, and of course everyone's relaxed, and they'll go on thump QPR, and it'll be one big celebration for the blue half of Manchester and the £930 million that he's taken to win them the title. Interesting figures in the Telegraph today. Or they might not score in the first half, and QPR might park the bus big time and do a Chelsea at Barcelona or an Inter at Barcelona and one of those, and they might then get a bit nervous, and maybe the nerves will affect them. It certainly did a couple of months ago, didn't it? And maybe at that point they'll freak out a little bit, and we can maybe get some hope then. It's unlikely, but you never know.
Oh, I'd love it though. Oh, gosh,
you'd love it. You'd just love it.
I'd love it if that happened. Oh, talking of which, absolutely robbed the stupid Premier League arbitrary 20-year arbitrary nonsense thing. How did that beat the trawler? Ridiculous.
I told you it was arbitrary nonsense.
Most memorable quote. I'd love it if we beat them. Beat out. When the sardines follow the trawler, it's because they hope... Well, when the seagulls follow the trawler, it's... Oh, there you go. That's why it lost the most memorable quote, because even I can't remember it. Ridiculous. Nonsense. Keegan with an unjust victory over Eric there.
The only time in his life.
Yes.
Predictions for this week?
United will win against Sunderland. I'm going to say 2-0. It's pretty arbitrary, that. I haven't given it a lot of thought. But, I think we need to win. And, unless City are 3-0 up after 5 minutes, in which case maybe it'll be a draw or something. But assuming there's any chance whatsoever, then United will win.
Yeah, I think if United need to win, we'll win. But I suspect City will comfortably beat QPR, and that'll filter through, and therefore we'll draw. And in many ways, losing it on points is better than losing it on goal difference, isn't it? Because there would just be too many ifs and buts.
No, because it's the same basically this season. I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like. I just think there's so many ifs and buts anyway. If we lose it on points, the most points we can lose it by is 3. And there are way more than 3 points that we should have had that we haven't got in terms of our own performances. But listen, for now, hope remains. That little tiny sliver of it still exists. So why not bask in that tiny little sliver of hope for one more week? And then we'll be back next season. We've had another question from Amplified to Rock saying, next season, do you think it's more likely that we'll win the league or more likely that we'll finish out of the Champions League places? And I think it's more likely by a long, long way that we'll win the league. I was offered, as I've said many times on this podcast, I don't gamble. I had a discussion with a friend of mine who's a pretty serious gambler, and he was basically saying he would be prepared to offer evens at the beginning of this season on United not finishing in the top 2, and I said I thought that was a completely and utterly crazy bet, because United's consistency in the league over the last number of seasons has been absolutely staggering, and finishing outside of the Champions League places next season seems remarkably unlikely to me.
I don't think it'll happen, although one thing I would say is that it does seem like Chelsea and City and Arsenal are all going to invest big. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll all work for them, of course, but it looks like Arsenal have decided to take the market a bit more seriously than they have done in the past. Why the hell not? They have the second biggest revenue in the league, and they've got their debt under £100 million. They've done it very quickly, and they're pulling in loads more revenue than they ever used to. They're a well-run, financially sound club. They can afford to spend money, and it looks like after 7 years of no trophies that they might finally do that. Chelsea, Abramovich is going to pull out his wallet again. He doesn't even blink twice about spending £1 billion on a potential project at Battersea, so he's going to spend a lot of money in the transfer market. City will spend whatever they feel like, of course, and Tottenham may well spend some money too. Again, a sound, financially run club. So it's going to be even more competitive next season for sure, and United will have to do something to compete, but I don't see there's any scenario in which they drop out the top 4 next season. Doesn't mean over the long term that a Liverpool scenario couldn't happen, a few bad purchases, erosion in squad quality and all of that, but I don't think it'll happen next season.
And whoever comes next, of course, that is the key question in terms of whether a Liverpool happens to United. It's all about the transition.
Can Mike Phelan take over from Fergie and do the same job?
That's just cruel. That's just a cruel thing to say to United fans. No, I mean, I think, if you look at relative squad strength, I think in a lot of positions we have either the best or second best player in the league in that position still. And I think that's probably going to continue next season. I think if you look at our options across the back 4 with the exception of the left back, and certainly if you look at our options on the wings and up front, then we're incredibly well stocked in those areas. And I think we've got the best goalkeeper in the league, or at least, I think if assuming that he manages to keep those mistakes out of his game, he's the best goalkeeper in the league. Joe Hart's obviously an excellent keeper as well, but we have either the best or second best in a lot of positions, as I say.
Yeah, well, that's a positive note on which to end the show, isn't it? And I'd like to end the show feeling positive about United going to Sunderland and lifting the trophy, but I have to say I don't feel very positive about it, and it feels quite an underwhelming end to the week in many ways. And you get excited about the game coming up, but it's hard to get that excited about this one. There isn't the same sense of anticipation as there has been about sort of last day games or that kind of thing in the past, because I think it's probably done and dusted.
Yeah, that definitely takes the edge off, doesn't it? Of course, not done and dusted elsewhere in the league. Huge things still to play for. Champions League positions, especially since it might all rest on getting third. Arsenal in the box seat, but a good few teams in the mix there.
Well, Arsenal go to West Brom and Tottenham home to Fulham, so and Newcastle go to Everton. So Tottenham have got a good opportunity there, because Arsenal could definitely blow it. But yeah, as you say, whoever comes fourth could well be out of the Champions League anyway. Yeah. The only time, of course, UEFA allow a winner to stay in and don't allow anyone out and take anyone out is when Liverpool did it. Still inexplicable, that decision.
But they did say, right, we're never doing this again. This is just a one-off thing.
Just specially for Liverpool, you know.
Because it's the only way they're going to get any Champions League football for a while, I think. Probably an act of pity. And then relegation. I guess you think that it's pretty nailed on that QPR are going to go down.
Well, they're going to lose, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, of course, Bolton won't necessarily win. Who would you rather go down out of Bolton and QPR? This is a ridiculous question, because obviously you'd rather Bolton go down, because that means QPR have won and United can win the league. But just remove that. Which of those two sides would you rather not have in the Premier League?
Kind of ambivalent. I mean, you know, Bolton's a complete dump, but that's no reason to particularly hate them. You know, I know they're local rivals and all that, but no, I don't really mind. I mean, Tony Fernandes seems like a half-decent owner. Bolton overspends way beyond their means, and the owner there finances them out of it. But either way, I don't really care. It would be real problems for Bolton if they went down there. I'd say that they will be right on the verge of administration.
Goal music. That's the clear right answer to that question. Whichever team has goal music, that's the team you want to go down.
Yeah, well, QPR do.
Oh.
Don't Bolton do it as well?
Bolton do, yeah. No, I didn't realise QPR did as well.
Yeah, a real scourge of the Premier League, that is, I think.
Goal music is the worst. There are many things wrong with the world, and I will acknowledge that some of them are more serious than goal music, but of all the kind of petty, unimportant things in the world that are wrong, goal music is the worst. Why? Why? Goals are brilliant, right? That's the best bit of a game. Why do you ruin it with music? Just so wrong.
Yeah, and you know what? I can work out when there's been a goal, and I'm pretty sure most fans can too.
You said in the roundup we were going to talk about the reserves.
Yes, Premier League Reserve North versus South playoff Thursday night, and United's reserves have won, drawn or lost.
Yes, good luck to them. They kick off in just a few minutes, I think, as we record this.
Who knows? There may well yet be glory for a Manchester United side this season.
Well, they've already done well to win the Reserve League North, haven't they, by an awful lot of points?
An awful lot of points, yes. And there's some good players there, many of whom will spend the season away from the club next season on loan somewhere. And hopefully it'll do what loans away did for Johnny Evans and Danny Welbeck, and they'll come back much better players and ready to challenge for a place in the first team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the time of season where I get philosophical when we don't win, because we've been spoilt rotten as fans, you know. I know it's a bit difficult to take because of the manner in which it's happened, the fact that there's been this massive artificial investment in our rivals, and our club has been basically stolen out from under us financially by a bunch of mercenary Americans. But over the years, we've just won so many titles. It's, you know, most fans never get to experience that. So this kind of taste of defeat makes the win sweeter. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, United has no right to win. But one of the things that's so annoying about the current situation, I mean, you know, there's been plenty of times that United has lost leagues, and they just lost leagues to better sides. And I guess there's an element of truth in that this season, if United do lose, but of course it's slightly false, because part of the reason we're not quite as good as we could be is because we're saddled with debt, and very conversely, City have blown a huge amount of sovereign wealth on winning the title. So I guess that's economics for you, but it doesn't leave a great taste in the mouth. But yeah, totally right. You had philosophical about this. United have no right to win every year, and football would be kind of boring if you did.
Yeah, although I guess we'll settle for another 5 years of boredom in the next 5 seasons, please, and just win the league over and over again.
And of course, as you like to shout out every week, you can catch up with us on Facebook. Some people do.
They do, yeah. We always appreciate that. That's facebook.com/UnitedRant.
And Twitter.
At UTD Rantcast for me, at United Rant for Ed.
And you can throw us some money if you want.
Talking of throwing some money at us, at May Peng, May_Peng did this. That's MEI_PENG, saying, wanted, a true United supporter, brackets female, for date in Houston, Texas. I'll take you to the pub for the final game and lunch in Chinatown. And he says, maybe on the podcast we can add that the pub is the best in town and the food will be good too, and maybe 2 miracles will happen on Sunday. I'm not promising to do that for any listener that donates to the show, but it can't hurt to ask.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
Come on, you super hoopers, I guess. Although, I don't know, it's good luck to all concerned, I suppose. I find it hard to kind of really get behind another team winning for our sake, but boring 0-0 draw I will take. That would be exciting, wouldn't it?
Well, it's football, that's the winner, Paul, and may the best team win, and if it's not the best team that's going to win, let's hope it's United.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be back sometime in the very near future with a massive end-of-season spectacular.
See you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.